a mentor tell me one time. It said, money changes hands when problems are solved. And the bigger the problem, the bigger money that is exchanged. And so I'm sure that we would all agree, and you would agree with this, is that right now there's a lot of problems in this, in just the economy and in our real estate market. And so that means that there's a lot of problems for us to solve.
Hey everyone, Shaune Corbett with Real Estate Success DFW. We are on location, a special guest today. We have Nick Good. How are you, Nick?
Good, how are you doing?
Above average. Nick's a bit of a celebrity for me. I've actually known of him for a long time. And we are in similar spaces, so we have a lot of things in common in what we talk about. We're going to talk about things that are going to be applicable, I think, for the agents out there. And he has been good to me to give me a chance to sit down with him and talk. So thank you.
Absolutely, and thanks for coming into our space here. This studio is amazing. It's been a hot minute since I've been in here, so I feel like I'm back home.
Well, I like it. I mean, you have done over 200 episodes on your podcast, and you have different random people come in, all in the residential real estate space primarily, right?
Correct. Yeah, it was called The Only Real Estate Podcast Worth Listening To. It was real, relatable, raw content to help real estate agents just master their craft and talk about what was going on, at that moment. And so we started in 2018 and it just really took off from there.
Which is a pioneer in a sense. Podcast was such a big word. Everyone thought, wow, you must be famous, must be doing something great. And there wasn't a whole lot of people paving the way for it. What do we talk about? How do we entertain everyone? How do we make it interesting and not make it boring every single time?
Yeah, it was super expensive at the time, right? So when we started it, we went to this guy's garage. It was an acquaintance of ours, some random guy. He said, "Hey, I got this equipment, I got microphones, and we've got a way to go live." We were going live on Facebook every single time we were doing it. And so it just gave us an opportunity just to speak to our local audience. And then, as we kind of, got comfortable with it and grew it from there, we tested a whole bunch of different other avenues out. We used a streaming service, and that was kind of hit or miss because we were kind of doing it Zoom style, and we like to be in person because we can feed off that energy, and thus this is how this eventual space got developed. We moved from a closet to having a third-party professional company do it, and then we just built it all in-house.
I love it. I mean, you've really taken it to a good level. This is great. It's a very comfortable space. We can get in here, and you're right. Being in person does make a lot of difference. So I can feed off your energy, what you're excited about, what you're talking about. I think that's really valuable. I do Zooms for expediency. I don't have the big budget to do a lot of things, but I want to get the good interviews. So in order for me to target people and get our schedules to work, it's been really efficient. But if I had my choice, I'd rather sit down with somebody for sure. 100%. All right, let's do the thing I always like to do is you could do a lot of things. I mean, you're talented. You can certainly do podcasting, but you have done a lot of things in residential real estate. And you've certainly done things in the investor space. You've done your own investments, and you've got a team, which is the Good Home team. You've got that team going, and I've known about that team for a while because you've done quite a bit of volume there. How did you even get started in real estate? What made it be your career choice?
So, and it's funny I'm going to say this because I just got back from a men's group kind of vacation. It was supposed to be a golfing trip, and we didn't end up golfing because there was too much other stuff going on. But there was a apartment owner that owns over 2,000 doors, and how he got started is he read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That is how I got started. My brother Austin and I, we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we knew that the way to kind of generate wealth and to be wealthy was that we needed to be in the real estate investment space. We didn't know which direction. Rich Dad Poor Dad was talking about, acquiring that passive income and that residual income. And so we tried way back, I'm 18 years old, I'll go back to 18. We tried to do some subject to deals, some owner finance deals. We just couldn't get it going because we didn't have enough experience. We weren't relatable enough, and we were super young. My brother was 16, I was 18. And so fast forward, I'm in college trying to figure out what I want to do. I was on the 7-year career path of just being a full-time student. My parents were ready to get rid of me and stop paying for my school. So I took the fast track, got a general studies degree. And while I was on my last semester, there was a job posting for a real estate assistant. And so I said, what better way to learn real estate investment or just the real estate space is I'll get paid to be an assistant. For some reason, that brokerage hired me, which, I was their assistant. I'm the worst assistant. I'm not organized. But they kind of changed the course for me. I got in, learned what they were doing, and, I got licensed. They said, hey, you should get licensed to help out. And did that in 2005, beginning in 2006. And I graduated in 2007 and really then took off from there. I said, hey, they offered me a full-time salary. I turned the salary down because I said, do you believe that I could make six figures selling real estate? Because I saw the potential there. And they said, yes, absolutely. So in 2007, I just graduated college. I just bought a house and I just got married, all within that 90-day time span. And I decided that I was not going to go on a salaried W-2 income, that I was going to be 100% commission, kill what I eat, or eat what I kill. And I didn't do very well. Sold 3 houses in that first year. And it just took a while just to kind of learn this is a tough industry. Whether you're selling residential real estate or you're selling, even in the real estate investment space, this is cutthroat. It's hard. And you've got to figure out what your niche and what your path is going to be. And so it just took me, about a year and a half to kind of figure that out. But once I did and it clicked, I'm a creature of habit. And once I was in that comfortable space of saying, this is going to be the way I'm going to build my business, it just took off from there.
That's incredible. Do you think that now that you've been an entrepreneur for as long as you have, do you think you're employable?
100% no. I wasn't employable back then. I'm definitely not employable now.
I went through the same phase. I think I've been fired at every job I've ever had. I'm not an employable person. I have to be eat what you kill. I love the mentality. I like and it's tough. I know a lot of people complain about the last couple of years, transaction counts are down. It's only rising the people that are actually selling all the real estate, getting all of the opportunities. And it's been a lot harder, but it's going to make or break you. And if you can have success here, you can have success anytime.
I find that when we focus on the negative, we get negative outcomes. And so when I hear transaction counts down, while I'm training my agents now, my role is more of training and leading my people in all of my companies that I'm a partner in. And while we address what's happening within the industry or with the economy, we don't let that define us. And what I mean by that is in our residential sales team, in August, we had in our 20 years of really being selling residential real estate, we had our best closing month and our best unit count month in our 20-year history. And this is all while, interest rates are all over the place, inflation's all over the place. We've got, this just what's going on in the government with the current president that we have, regardless of what you feel about it, it's just ping-ponging back and forth. Yeah. And so we were still able to have a company record in closed volume and in units. And it goes back into personal development and really understanding your mindset. And I had a mentor tell me one time, it said, money changes hands when problems are solved. And the bigger the problem, the bigger money that is exchanged. And so I'm sure that we would all agree, and you would agree with this, is that right now there's a lot of problems in this, in just the economy and in our real estate market. And so that means that there's a lot of problems for us to solve.
Yeah. I've heard something similar where, how do I become a millionaire? Find a big problem that a million people have a problem with.
Yes.
And you'll be a millionaire. Solve a problem, right? Provide a solution or solve a problem. One of the funny things when I ask people about how do they get into real estate, very few wake up, growing up, going to high school, like you, going to college, and say, you know what, I think I'm going to sell real estate. It's not something anyone really, I think, naturally aspires to unless it's in the family. Yeah. I didn't think about selling real estate in the least. I think I was late 20s when the opportunity kind of landed in my lap. And I just did it like a lot of people, threw it on the side, did some investment properties, did some stuff for family, nothing serious. And then it was forcing me in to be a broker because I had agents wanting to join. So I went through the whole process and set everything up. And I was like, if the opportunity is there and I can help, I'll do it. But I think that's just funny that most people don't even think about it that way.
Well, growing up, I was a high school football player, a jock. And, if you say I'm going to be a real estate agent, they're probably thinking, at least back then, it was more dominated that was a female dominant industry. So that just wasn't definitely on the career path. But then you talk about real estate investing. And so we've got to learn it somehow. And, I just found a different solution instead of going straight into the real estate investing game, which I come from a middle-class family. So I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. We didn't need for anything. But, my parents definitely stretched their budget in order to provide, and we were very thankful and blessed for that. And so it was, we were trying to learn this no money down, this, trying to owner finance everything. And when you go down those paths, like no credit, no money down options, cheap owner finance deals, they're just, if you don't know how to lead generate, then you're not going to find a successful path typically. And so I just found a different solution, and it was going down, getting my license, learning, having a mentor, which my first real estate broker was my mentor. I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't even be in the industry if it weren't for him. And then every next step is finding someone who's more successful than you are, and try to befriend them and just learn what they're doing. Rip off and duplicate. Why would you reinvent the wheel? There's no reason. There's really nothing else out there that we're going to go and create and invent and solve. That's far and few between. So what I'm going to do, I want to take the path of least resistance, and I want to rip off and duplicate as quickly as possible, and then maybe put my own little spin on it once I become successful in that space.
Sure. And you've done that, through all of the different spaces you're in. And you talk about like owner finance is in that space of creative financing, right? And generally that's considered that like a dirty word, because there's a lot of creative ways that you can do things that inevitably are bad for one of the parties. I love owner finance, not something that I train or teach directly, but if someone's in the space and they've got an opportunity, I don't mind walking them through and showing them how to effectively set it up, as a consultant of some sort to them to show them how to set it up. But I think it can really help, especially in this market now. Sellers aren't selling, so this is a great opportunity for them to say, hey, if you're okay holding the note for 5 years or to 7 years or whatever, we do a balloon, then we can create an opportunity for you to get out even what you're trying to sell for. They get what they want. They just don't get it all today. And I know you and I talked about a transaction you were doing recently. It's exactly what you offered to them. It's a good opportunity for both of you.
We go in and again, let's go back to what my mentor taught me is money changes hands when problems are solved. And so as a real estate broker, what I do when I go to a seller's house, a homeowner has asked me or called me or inquired about selling their house, I go with a game plan of just not just brokering the sale. I have different options because we don't know their scenarios all the way. And so this one transaction that I just purchased, it was a landlord that was just ready to cash out. And honestly, he was the worst landlord, didn't follow any of the regulations. The tenant had been there 12 years. He put in his own appliances. He built his own deck that cost him $5,000. The house flooded and the landlord wouldn't put flooring in. So the tenant ripped up his own flooring and just put down some stick down laminate looking stuff. And so I'm like, all right, this obviously the tenant paid on time or was consistently paying, and he was willing to take care of the house that wasn't his, the best to his ability. And so my first solution was I made a cash offer to that landlord, which was much lower than he wanted. And we went back and forth, and I first got this inquiry back in March, and we didn't close until July. So that was that time frame of just going back and forth, and I was just presenting options. And the last of it was he wanted cash. I said, I'm not going to give you what you're asking for, cash, but if you were willing to owner finance it to me, here's what I'm asking. I would like it on a 30-year amortization schedule, and I wanted about a 10 to 20% down payment. I ended up putting down a lot more than I originally wanted, but the numbers still make sense.
Most owner finance is 10 to 20, just generally, just for retail.
Typically.
Not for the investor, but for retail.
Yeah. And so, I ended up putting down $82,500 on that, and I got a 4.5% interest rate.
Yeah.
I originally offered to put a balloon payment in there.
And that way you're thinking you put more down, but you got the interest rate. And a very attractive term. That is not a typical owner finance term.
Typically not. And you're right, because I put so much down, he was willing to give me the interest rate that I had
He just
requested.
wanted the cash today.
Wanted the cash today.
Got to look for that motivation.
Yep. And the only problem that this guy may have is that he did not put a balloon payment on there. So, I can pay this out over 30 years if I wanted to, versus my original offer was, hey, give me 60 to 72 months balloon. So 5 to 6 year balloon payment. And I should be done with it. It's a very low leverage right now. And it fits my buy box criteria. I just literally closed on a house yesterday out in Irving, Texas. I paid cash for this one, and I paid 160. It's going to need about 35 to 40. So all in with holding costs and everything, I'm probably 205 to 210. It's going to rent out for 2,100. While there's a lot of investors that would turn their nose up to it, because it's not a double-digit cash-on-cash return. It's not this and this. I'm walking into it at minimum instant equity of $65,000+ minimum. Once I do that rehab, right now there's comps that are showing 275 to 300. So if I just go with the lower comp at 275, minimum I'm at 65,000 instant equity right now. That doesn't include any type of future appreciation. Doesn't include any cash flow that I make right now when I start renting it out. And it fits my buy box criteria is I need tax write-offs. So I need to go accelerate some depreciation. The rehab cost will be a write-off against the income I earn, as well as my goal is I'm 42 years old. In the next 10 years, I want to have 10 to 15 at minimum, 10 to 15 paid off rentals. That's just paying me every single month. No. That doesn't include the apartments that I own and anything else. This is a separate kind of portfolio that I'm building.
Okay. I like that space. Ironically, I have the same deal in Irving near the mall. It was the exact same deal. I'm about 200 in. It's worth 300 now.
Yep.
But almost the same exact deal. It's kind of funny. So maybe we got neighbors. Let's talk about passion, right? There's a lot of, you've got energy in a lot of these spaces. So if you could pick out a particular space in this area, what really gets you excited, the most?
I'll be honest, I don't get excited over any of it. What I get excited is developing people. So my goal, right, and we talked about this last week when we sat down and met. I kind of changed my vision, right? Is I want to empower my people in every single company that I own to have opportunity for growth. And I have 4 kids. I have an 18-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 3-year-old, and almost a 1-year-old. She'll be 1 this month. And so I have a very chaotic schedule. And I have made this year specifically, I'd made a mission is that I wanted to work from home every single day. And unless I'm going to the golf course, which is 3 minutes away from my house, or I'm smoking a cigar or having drinks with a friend or a potential client, I don't really want to leave my house. Coming to the studio and seeing Jesse, our producer, this is something like I'll make exceptions for because I love this area and I love this space.
And came out to hang out with me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. That's why when we're doing it, I'm like, hey, let's go to this.
We're not COVID anymore. Come on. Come on outside.
Yeah, 100%. But my passion is now about developing people in our world and our space, because the more that I can develop and empower them, what are they going to do? They have more opportunity in the world that I've created. They've got, they're helping run with the vision that I have for every single space that we own. And from that, they're getting to grow in their own world and hopefully leave it better than when they found it or when they came into our businesses.
So you're talking about like a sliding scale of ownership or something, or they get more piece of the pie or higher percentage?
It's not necessarily ownership, but it's about creating opportunities for ancillary. So I'll give you a prime example. In my residential real estate company, we're creating opportunities for our people to turn revenue, monthly revenue off of the growth of our ancillary, like mortgage, insurance, concierge services. So it creates more revenue growth for them, because the number one thing that people have, or that I see that people want, is they believe they want to invest in real estate. They just don't have the money. They're not great with money, and they don't know how to make that first 6 figures. Every single real estate agent I'm sure that you've interviewed in the past has, when they first started, their number one goal, and it hasn't changed today even with inflation and how expensive everything else has gotten, is that they want to make 6 figures, no matter what. So we want to show them, all right, how can we help grow our people to make that type of money? But then from there, instead of saying, hey, instead of working 24/7 and having no life, what if we could show you how by supporting the internal businesses that we have, how about we show you how you can earn an additional 30, 40, 50, 60, another 100,000 coming in by supporting the additional ancillary revenue, ancillary businesses that we've created and spun off. And so if we can continue to do that, or if we can continue to create leadership growth paths for our people, then and help show them how to invest and build wealth, then the odds of them leaving our world drastically gets reduced. Does that make sense?
Sure it does. Yeah. So they can earn additional money on every transaction.
Yep.
The transaction creates all these opportunities, and they can actually earn additional residual income after each transaction that happens. I mean, I've seen models like this. Even small brokerages that have exploded in growth, they go real cheap on fees, and just like we say, we don't create everything, right? Other people have done it before, and it's had success, and then they can create the opportunity to sell back to the agents other additional services in order to be able to grow their own personal growth.
Correct.
And the agent can make some additional money at the same time. It's clever for sure, especially if it's all in-house. Everybody wins, right?
Correct.
We're all feeding the machine together.
Yep.
I like it. If I could ask you what particular space you would consider yourself a genius at answering, you gave me an answer outside of our meeting here, but I wanted you to be able to kind of expound on that a little bit. What would you say you would be considered an expert or genius in answering?
I don't believe again, just like I said offline, I don't believe I'm a genius at anything. I'm constantly working on improving my personal development. I'm constantly working on improving my relationships, developing and nurturing relationships with people. I'm constantly working on and improving my sales techniques, because I believe that we've moved away from sales is a dirty word. Being a salesperson has become a dirty kind of term.
It's only about money.
Yes, that they're con men or snake oil salesmen, and I don't believe that. I think what I believe in is we need to go back to the face-to-face, with the belly-to-belly, and it's all about becoming a problem solver. Salespeople are the best salespeople are connectors, and they're problem solvers. And because the term salesperson has gotten such a dirty word, that most people don't go down the craft of perfecting it and mastering it. And then I'd say last is really the investing space is, again, this weekend when I was on this golf trip, there was no golfing that ended up happening, is I don't get intimidated often. I was definitely intimidated on this trip. I'm with, apartment owners that own over 2,000 doors. I'm with a guy that has sold his commercial lending business to a big national banking firm, and is in charge. And he's grown. He's even grown that branch that was sold even bigger than what it was. I was with a guy that runs a family office that has over $130 million in just cash ready to deploy, and so I'm seeing that I definitely have not mastered the investing space, from being able to understand the numbers and the yield spreads and even the owner finance. Everything is a learning game, and we don't stop learning. The minute we stop learning, the minute we stop improving, is the minute that, my belief is the minute that we start to go down this death path where your mind starts to slow. You're not as quick and not as sharp. Maybe you get a little bit more cynical and skeptical and everything, and you kind of start to fall into these traps of building wealth or earning money is not obtainable to you or anybody else, and it was only for the rich, and that's why the rich keep getting richer.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one secret I'll share here is, every agent should have the opportunity to get into investing. They have commission, and commission's slightable. I do it all the time, right? I just bought one now. And the purchase was $299,900, and I'm up to $36,000 in commission in it. And so I'm not paying anything to close the deal.
Yeah.
And it can be done depending on the lender requirements and stuff. And there's ways to do it outside of just the lender. The lender might have 8 to 10%. I've learned these things, right? They may have an 8 to 10% buffer. Okay, we're okay. You start getting to 20%. Now, wait a minute here. Then the underwriter starts pushing back. They don't have to slide it into the commission or down payment. They can slide into closing costs and other things. Rate buy downs. I maxed out my rate buy down to get a low enough interest rate to make it worth it for me. And these are one thing at a time. You got to kind of work through it. Not all deals work like this, but there are opportunities, in every deal. One way or another, we can make something happen.
Correct.
I was going to ask you, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I hopefully it makes sense and that's relatable to everyone. I personally believe that if someone comes on there, and not to talk about your previous shows, anybody that says they're a genius in something, that's the ego talking. And I try to always push that ego down and say there's always something I can learn and improve upon.
Sure. It's easy to get excited about, pat on the backs or success in your podcast before, oh, wow, I've arrived. Fortunately, I'm in a space here. I'm never going to arrive doing podcasts, and I love doing it. I love telling stories, but I'm not going to monetize it. I don't expect to. Be cool if I could, but I don't. That's not really what I'm here for. I'm here to tell stories, because I think it's relatable and helps other agents and build that community.
Yep.
It's just my top priorities.
You're going to be the Joe Rogan of real estate.
Possibly, yeah. If we ask enough off-topic stuff, I don't mind. I'll even do politics and things like that, and it's tough.
You need to bring Brian Force on, my partner and co-host of the only real estate podcast worth listening to, because he'll dive
right into some of that.
Yeah, he would definitely he would already turn in his real estate stuff to the politics. So, yeah, have him on the show.
With fear of alienating my audience, right? All right, so let's talk. You've mentioned that you're in this growth phase and you've always had someone that knows more than you can call to. In humility, I do as well, right? I have specific people I reach out to when I'm starting to get into a space that I don't know what I'm doing. And then they coach me. I have a high aptitude, so I'll learn quick, but I know that what I don't know. So they tell me what areas we can negotiate and all the different things like that when I get in there. Do you currently have a coach that you call on or traditionally go to or do anything monthly? Or do you even offer coaching for you to people that you work with?
I only coach. I mentor. I don't even call it coaching. I mentor my real estate agents. So if agents are wanting to join our organization, the Good Home Team, then they'll get coaching and mentoring from myself. I am, my company is part of eXp Realty, but we're part of a bigger organization called Place. And think of Place as a conglomerate of the top 1% of the 1% in real estate. And so every single Monday I get coached by, or we get poured into by the Ben Kenny and Chris Suarez, who started Place, and they were massive residential real estate operators, ran brokerages, real estate teams, and again we're around over 500 top 1% real estate teams in the United States. So there's a lot of collaboration going on. I don't pay for coaching anymore. What I will do is I will seek out in the networking space. I'll ask, who should I know? Who could you introduce me to that I'm trying to get into XYZ, or I'm trying to learn XYZ? And once, I'll take someone again for cigars, coffee, drinks, golf, whatever that may be.
Or invite them on your podcast.
Or invite them on the podcast. That's a great opportunity. That is the perfect spot to do it. And just learn, is that something that, do I believe now, after kind of picking their brain for a few minutes or for an hour or for however long, is that a space that I really believe that I want to go down? And if it is, then similar to you, I'm quick. I have a high aptitude. I'm quick to learn. I'm quick to implement. We also have AI at our fingertips now. There's no reason why we can't understand this, because if they're talking over your head, all you need to do is ask AI to teach you like a fifth grader, and it will break it down and dumb it down for you until you start to learn. Because a lot of the things that we're learning or that we feel intimidated on, it's because people in this spaces start talking in code word or abbreviations,
of course, yeah,
and slang in that particular spot. And that that intimidates when that starts happening. And then you just feel like, I don't know if you're like me, but you start to feel like, man, maybe I'm not cut out to this. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. Yeah. Are they that much more intelligent than I am, smarter than I am? Do they have X, Y, and Z that I don't have? And then as you dive into it more and you start to learn, you're like, look, everyone can basically do this. We're not doing brain surgery here. And so I just believe in what you pour yourself into, what you start studying, and what you start implementing, right? Because it's also trial by fire, that you can be successful as long as you don't give up. The only time that you fail is when you quit and give up on yourself.
It's true. That's absolutely true. I had a commercial lease the other day for one of my clients. They just said, hey, gave me the place. They gave me the contact, who to call to do the deal. So I did. I called him. I said, why not? I haven't done this before. And he starts talking TI and triple net and all these different terms, and there's base rent plus whatever the triple net part is. And I'm like, okay, sounds great. Yeah, let's do it. So I threw it all into chat, and it created an LOI for me.
Yep.
And then we had base terms. And then I called a expert. Okay, here's the base terms. Here's the LOI. Now let's talk about usual and customary.
Yep.
That's the space that AI is not going to know. Now it can kind of like do estimations and stuff, and most of the estimations are usually pretty grossly off. I even have AI do CMAs sometimes, just because, I'm testing it. Over time, it's going to get more and more accurate, unfortunately for us, but it's going to get more and more accurate and come closer and closer to what I'm looking for. So I got a property in Florida. It was one of our relatives passed away, and I looked at it, said, "Hey, you guys need time to grieve. Let's not just dump this thing. Let me take care of it." So I renovated it, and I'm going to put a tenant in it actually next week, and that way we can have 1 year of income while we decide what to do with the property after that. But I had AI kind of like, okay, how much does it cost to renovate? How much does it cost to do this? What's the rent rates and all? And I had it kind of give me an entire scope of everything. And it was reasonably close on the cost to renovate, on what we could expect to get on rents. So there is value to it, but I still need the customary things from a coach or someone like an expert.
Yeah, you build. Look, it's the start, right? It's the opening act, and then you continue to move forward and get a little bit more information and make sure that it's correct. You're fact checking it. So,
Sure.
I do the same thing. I don't believe that we will truly be AI replaced. The society will be AI replaced if they want to be replaced. I believe that we will be AI enhanced, and we can use this to our advantage. And again, we have everything at our fingertips, and blink of an eye. And so I built out, I learned from some others and built out some investment analysis prompts, and analyzed even this current deal I just closed. And started.
Yeah, I can tell you where to move the numbers to get the maximum benefit for you.
We'll move the numbers, but at the same time, not get discouraged that it doesn't always hit where we think it's going to hit.
Yeah.
Right? Because in our head, we start building up numbers. Just like a homeowner. You're talking to a homeowner, they have a certain number that when they sell it that they're going to make money on. And typically that they're much higher than what's the reality is. And unless they're super logical, they're going to believe they're losing money because reality doesn't match what their mind was or what they thought it was going to be. And so it's the same thing when we come into our investment space. Is like, all right, I'm going to buy this rental property. It's going to rent for $2,100 a month. I'm going to make this amount of money. I'm going to make over $25,000 a year on it. And then you start factoring some of the others. And then when you really look into it, your expenses are going to run 48 to 50%. And then you start factoring, all right, if you have leverage on it, if you get an interest, mortgage on it, then it starts to be maybe $100 a month that you're only making, or negative cash flow. And so we need to have a baseline, and then we start asking more and more questions. And then from there, we determine, is this something we want to pull the trigger on and take the risk of buying or closing or doing X, Y, and Z with it?
Sure. I think the phrase I always hear about AI is, I don't expect to see agents get replaced either, no more than an attorney. They could do a lot more damage to an attorney than it can to us, because there's a lot of usual and customary things that we have to be available and be available for. Man, you could do a lot of research on court cases for attorneys, and they're not being replaced. So I think they are in a much more dangerous space than we are.
It's going to replace the transactional attorneys. It's not the attorneys. I'm not using that attorney to represent me in lawsuits.
Sure.
It's going to replace the attorneys that are maybe doing eviction filing.
Turnkey things.
Yeah, that's a promulgated a fill-in form that they already have, and they're charging you $2,500 for.
Yeah, he could tell you how to do an eviction and never call an attorney.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, is it replacing those? Sure. Is it going to elevate some of those attorneys to stop being transactional and to elevate their games on that? So it's the same thing in our space. That I believe that, number one, that, as we go and specialize in a niche, I built my career in the very beginning when I finally learned this. I built it off expireds and canceleds. Sellers that had tried to sell with another agent, and for whatever reason it didn't sell. And that was the craft that I was focusing on mastering. I wasn't going to go down and do a shotgun approach. I was going to do a laser focused approach of only expireds and canceleds, and I was going to build it off that. And I did, and it built an amazing company. In fact, we were so good at the expireds and canceleds that we sucked at for sale by owners. I sucked at my sphere and past clients. I was transactional back then. I called myself the one night stand agent, because I was in, wham, bam, and I was out, and I forgot their name. I didn't go to closing. We started inviting.
It's not a buyer, it's a seller. So you're never going to probably ever hear from them again.
We should, if we did it correct.
Roll them into your database and stuff.
Yes,
but I could see why it might come out that way.
Sometimes I would go to closing every now and again, and I forgot what they looked like. I had to show up late to make sure that it was actually my client. And so... And then you change it because and it's not to say that to brag. I'm very single-minded focus on something that I want to go down and really do well at.
You got paid to solve a problem you did, and you didn't consider some of the emotional aspects.
And this was
and
2008,
things.
2009, 2010. So there was a lot of homes, just like now. There's a lot of inventory on the market. Buyers weren't buying. The economy was not great.
Right.
And so, the great financial collapse. And so the same thing right now is everyone, I use the fishing analogy. Like if you saw me at a pond catching all this fish and you're at another pond and you're not catching any fish, what are you going to do? You're going to run over to mine and throw your line in. Well, you don't even know what bait I'm using. You don't know how maybe I perfected a certain area of that pond or know where they're all at a certain time of day. Or maybe that you left your pond a little too soon because you were about to catch the whale. And so people like to just do the shotgun and they move around too quickly rather than going and just narrowly focused on one lead generation mechanism and perfect that and then start adding others in.
Sure. I'm going to say one last thing on AI. This is probably the most critical thing is I don't see real estate agents getting replaced with AI, but agents that learn AI will replace the other agents.
Yes.
I think that's going to be inevitable, right?
Yes.
Over the next 5 to 6 years, if you're not doing AI or making it part of your business, then you're not going to be very competitive. The only people calling you is your sphere that's always calling you. You're not going to build and grow at that point.
And eventually your sphere will slow down and stop calling you.
That's right. So very important. Is there, what would you say to you starting your business today? And you could say this to someone that's new. If you were to start over right now, what would you advise? Where would you recommend they start?
I would first off, I would definitely go back in time. And the way I would do it today is really, I would master my sphere network. I did not do that back then. And I didn't do it very well and probably lost out on a lot of opportunity. And it took me, it's still today, I struggle with my sphere network of just asking for the business, which sounds weird. I can cold call all day long. So don't be afraid to ask for the business within your network and your sphere. These are people that know, like, trust, and love you. I always tell my new agents that come in, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And so there's kind of a two-step approach that I would tell and advise brand new agents is that, first off, from day one, I would start building my hit list. And my hit list is going to be 250 contacts. And out of those 250 contacts, I'm going to get them into a CRM system. And so if you're joining a brokerage, I wouldn't even focus and worry about a brokerage that is cheap. What is cheap is not good. And most likely they're not adding the right services. They're limiting your potential launch to be successful in this. And so I would look for a brokerage that has a great CRM system or multiple CRM systems that you could choose from that would maybe match your personality. If you're very tech savvy, then choose the tech savvy one. If you're not, then just ask and choose the one that's going to be the easiest and not overwhelming. Put everyone into your CRM and then start to call them and start to let them know what you're doing. Then send a handwritten note. How often do you get handwritten cards? Never.
Once a year.
And if you do, does it still kind of make you feel good?
It does. It makes a difference because nobody else is doing it.
No one else is doing it.
Yeah,
I would send a handwritten card.
Yeah.
And from there, I would then ask for I would just ask them, I'd say, could I get their commitment for them to support my business? I want that commitment support. I need those cheerleaders out there because now you've got, you call 250 people. Let's just say that 100 of them will become your cheerleader. Now you have 100 walking billboards and people advertising for you. That doesn't cost you a lot of money, right? Maybe you take them to coffee. And so then you put them on a drip campaign. You put them on market reports. People want to know what's happening in the real estate world. If you talk to anyone at a party, and it's still true today, it has not changed. You go to a party and you say what you do, they're going to ask about interest rates. They're going to ask how the market's doing. Oh, is this a good or bad time to sell? I'm meeting with one of my sphere tomorrow, and when I called them, they're looking to move out back west. And when I called them, and immediately was like, I don't even think it's a good time to sell. Why do you think that? It's because of what's going on in the news. So we are so media driven and so news focused as consumers that when you tell people what you do, they're already going to prompt you typically with questions or how's it going or how's this. And so it gives you that opportunity to talk about it. And so you can then go and educate your sphere and network. And then I would go and start doing, I would start holding, either open houses or I would be doing educational seminars, maybe investment seminars, maybe first-time homebuyer seminars. Maybe if you want to get into representing sellers, how to sell your home seminars. And then even if you get one person to show up, that's one person. That's an opportunity. If you get no people, then go back and figure out and perfect your marketing craft to start attracting people into that. because the more that you can educate and the more that you can do group presentations, whether it's through podcasts, through webinars, through in-person seminars, the more that you can get your message out to a group of people, the larger that it's going to grow.
It increases your credibility.
Increases credibility.
Absolutely does.
And it will spread your message or spread your call to action a lot faster.
Yeah, because they'll think of you. If they've come to an education seminar that you're doing, they'll think of you for someone else.
Yep.
For sure. I think it's a good idea. Or they can come to and improve themselves coming to one of my community events. They're free. Come on.
100%. And I will tell, there's a book, and I don't know if this is on your list of books.
I do.
Okay.
Well, you have books you're recommending, but I'm going to ask you about what's something you'd want to promote. So that's coming up.
Well, yeah, it's not even from a book. I would say, just to tease it though, and we can bring it back up, is everyone should read the book Building an Empire by Brian Crothers.
Yeah. I have that one on my Audible. I don't think I've started.
Yeah, we talked about that. You need to go get the hard copy.
Okay. Yeah, you said that. You've written in it and you've got it.
Listen to it while reading it and then write, and it will stick and it will stay there with you.
Building an Empire
by Brian Crothers.
Okay. I love it. What about you personally? Is there anything that you have that you would like to promote? You've got a podcast you're looking at maybe starting again. Do you have any books, or do you have any training or anything that would be, or any events coming up?
Yeah, none of that, which again, in reading the book Building an Empire, I should be having something so I can invite you to, or to attract you in. I co-authored a book called best-selling book called Six Figure Agent. So it was in this co-author space. It was about how to build your real estate business to making six figures or more. And the podcast, which my producer Jesse would always shares the info, it's still actually growing in viewership, and we haven't done it in a couple months, is called The Only Real Estate Podcast Worth Listening To. So if you really want to just connect with me and maybe you want to pick my brain, just go to nickgood.work. We can connect on there. You can schedule a call on my calendar. We can talk anything business related. So I've got a family of businesses, from residential real estate sales to a residential property management company to a home service company that does handyman, remodeling, construction, HVAC, plumbing, you name it, we can do it. I own self-storage facilities, and obviously I invest in real estate and do capital apartment investing as well.
A lot of options.
A lot of options. So if you want to talk about it, I'm sure that if I don't know it, I probably can connect you.
Last question. Do you have, give me some of your hobbies.
My hobbies right now are my 4 kids.
I ask this because most people don't have hobbies anymore.
I've been bad about not having hobbies. I think that as men, and we connected at a men's networking group.
Yep.
I, number one, believe that as men, we especially if you're married and have family, we typically shy away from having hobbies, or going down the hobby path. And if we have kids, and we don't connect with other men. And so my wife has always encouraged me to go back and get hobbies. For a while there, I was back into playing Call of Duty, and that was with, I'm not a big video gamer, but it allowed me to connect with my group of people. So we would do that. Then I moved into golf. So I play golf typically once a week. Still not very good at it, which is crazy. You can play 52 times a year and still be as horrible as I am. So I'm definitely not giving golf lessons out. And I'm into cigar and bourbon. So some of the sinful stuff there, but it allows for, what I see is when I connect with people over just having, going to have a quick happy hour drink, or, having a cigar, it just allows for fluid conversations.
I'm glad you said a lot of that. I've looked at getting more intentional I have a 11-year-old, and I want him to, he likes guns. He's a boy. And I want to celebrate that. I want him, take him on some hunting trips. And I've got plenty of people in contacts to do that. So I want to start creating opportunities like that so we can actually do things together.
Yep.
And have a hobby together. I'm also looking at timing of all this is crazy. Like, we're sitting here talking, it's only been 3 to 4 weeks since Charlie Kirk was killed. Mm-hmm. That's made a big impact on me. So now I want to reach out to the kids his age and start bringing them to our house for an hour a week that I can pour into them.
That's great.
I'm going to use the Bible as a preface, but I'm also going to talk to them about, having courage and other things that people are just not pouring into their kids. Nothing against the dads, but most of us are so busy that we don't consider the impact that we have in getting and pouring into them.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really been pressed on, my heart recently too. So I think hobbies are good. You and I could talk work all day.
Yep.
But I have friends that I meet with, and we do cigars and whiskey. And I do that probably every 2 to 3 weeks. I'll meet with, 1 or 2 of them. And it's just good. And we talk about not work things. We talk about life and things we're going through and what men don't talk about. I'm not talking about sports. I'm not here to talk. I just think you can't grow with each other talking about sports. You know what I mean? It's fun to talk about, but we can't grow.
I think that, what ends up happening is that when you start to do this, you eventually, the first person who starts to become vulnerable will bring down that other person's walls. And so, I'm a big believer in that. We kind of got away from that for whatever reason. We kind of, men, we had to have this image of just being super strong, that nothing's going to impact us and we can push forward. And we're carrying all this stress, and it leads to poor health. It leads to anxiety. It leads to your body and minds break down. And something that has become a passion of mine is that today is October 1st. So I don't know when you will release this podcast episode. You got to know me not just through the real estate space, but through my brother, who unfortunately he took his own life October 6th. So there'll be 5 days from now, it'll be the 4-year anniversary of him taking his own life. And up until that point, mental health was never on any of our radar. We're men, we can handle this. Like, anybody who did that was a coward. And I will tell you that the more that you open up, the more you start to realize that everyone is portraying and putting on a front. And if you don't ever open up or ask, then you're never going to know. And then we start to hear more and more of this bad stuff happening. They're like, if they would have just reached out.
Or maybe you have to reach out to them.
You have to reach out.
Yeah.
And just do it in that space. So that's why again, the cigars, the bourbon, the golf, I talk work every now and again. I love to talk shop, but I also talk about my fears and anxiety. And what that typically will do is open up other people.
That's a good thought. I have not thought about it that way, because I'm generally good at connecting with other people. But if you do share, you're more vulnerable, it will bring down the walls of what they have, because all men carry them.
Absolutely.
They don't feel like they can share a lot of those things, or they're going to be judged. Or
whatever. Or be like, oh, you're weak, or call it something else.
Well, we've met for quite a bit of time today, so I thank you for doing all this with me. We'll do it again. I appreciate you, Nick. And for those that came on, if you liked this content, I'm going to be doing something like this every week. I'll have a new podcast. Subscribe to Real Estate Success DFW. This post on YouTube, I generally watch that the most, because I think it tracks all the statistics and stuff I like.
If you love this episode, go leave a 5-star review. Leave reviews, because the more reviews and the more 5 stars that he gets, the more reach he will have.
So any questions or anything, you can send me an email or a message. And until next time, have a high performance week. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.